Hi guys, my name is Tom and I'm the Tech Chap, and welcome to my Galaxy S6 versus S7 camera shootout. Before we begin, there's a few things I should mention. First of all, the Galaxy S7 Edge has the exact same camera as the S7, so if you've just bought one or you're thinking about buying an Edge, this video still applies to you. The other issue we have is the S7 has a 4:3 aspect ratio sensor compared to the widescreen 16:9 on the S6. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but what I've chosen to do, because I'm not a big fan of 4:3, is for most images and videos is lower the S7's res down to 9.1, so we can compare like for like widescreen images. So it's a bit of a pain, it's a little bit disappointing coming from the S6, but as you know, megapixels are not the full story, so let's crack on and see how they compare. So I took the S6 and the S7 to the city of Bath here in the UK on a beautiful spring day, and in this first picture, what strikes me is just how similar they are in terms of detail and color reproduction. We're definitely going to need to zoom in to notice any significant differences. If we zoom into the rooftops, at first glance the S6 appears to be a little bit washed out and lacking in detail. However, I actually think the S7 here is over-sharpening the image, which makes it appear a bit more vibrant, but not actually any better in my opinion. Let's move on to the next picture, which is of some runners running the Bath Half Marathon, which just so happened to be taking place on the day I was there. The first thing that I noticed is just how much more colourful and vibrant the S7 image looks, especially if you look at the tree in the background. There's also much greater dynamic range on the S7 if you compare the dark and the light areas underneath the bridge, for example. The S6 just looks a little bit bland compared to the S7, and there's definitely more noise on the S6 image too if we zoom in on one of the runners. The S7 is at a definite advantage when it comes to noise due to the lower resolution, larger pixels and wider aperture. This next picture of two dogs is a clear winner for the S7 as well, with the dog's fur appearing much sharper and more detailed, particularly around its left ear. I know it's not the nicest thing to zoom in on, but his nose is also far more detailed on the S7. But let's continue this tasty comparison. The S7 on the right is a lot more detailed. The S6 looks almost blurry in comparison. But like the picture of the dog earlier, the S7 really seems to shine in closer, more macro shots. Next up is a delicious pasty. I should really start an Instagram account given how many pictures of food I've taken, but there's a huge difference between the pictures here. The S6 really struggles with the sun's reflection on the pasty. I'm not really sure anyone's actually ever said that before, but you can see the S7 retains far more detail and handles the bright highlights much better than the S6, showing off its far superior dynamic range. In lower light, the S7's wider f1.7 aperture and larger pixel size makes a big difference to the brightness and the amount of noise in the image. If we zoom in below the shelf, not only is the S6 darker, but there's a lot more noise as well. Detail looks similar between the images, but as I say, the S7 handles the lower light much better and produces a much cleaner looking image. In this very low light example, the S7 does a better job as well, with deeper blacks, particularly on the chair, more detail on the desk, and better color reproduction. If you see that red logo at the base of the monitor, it looks almost orange on the S6, but much more accurately red on the S7. As for the flash, the S7 once again seems to do a little bit better, with a more neutral white light to the flash compared with a slightly more yellowy orange S6. The S7 also appears noticeably brighter and more detailed too, particularly if we look at the Japanese artwork on the right. Another picture using the flash, this time of the Gear VR headset. There's a huge difference in detail, brightness and overall quality of the photos between the two. The S7 is significantly better in low light and also when using the flash. Now, as for the front-facing selfie camera, both phones use 4:3 5 megapixel cameras. I'm not a big selfie taker, but for the benefit of this video, I thought I'd give it a shot. I think the S7 looks a lot sharper looking at both me in the foreground and the houses in the background. The S6 definitely looks a bit soft and blurry in comparison. So for the front camera, another big win for the S7, I think. But before we move on to video, let me show you guys a couple of examples of what the difference between a 12 megapixel 4:3 shot and a 9.1 megapixel 16:9 shot, both taken on the S7, looks like. These pictures show how much is cropped out with a 16:9 shot compared to the 4:3. You're basically capturing a lot more of the top and the bottom of the scene when using 4:3. Now, if we get a little bit more technical, the 4:3 image has a resolution of 4032 by 3024. That's compared to 4032 by 2268 at 16:9. So we're simply getting more of the vertical scene in the photo, and that's what the extra resolution is being used for. Now, last but not least, let's talk about video. Both phones can shoot up to 4K, although the S6 is limited to just 5 minutes. In this video of the marathon shot in 4K, the S7 has much better contrast and colors than the S6. Just look at how that bridge has far less detail and is slightly blown out by the light compared to the more natural and more accurate S7 footage. But for me though, in my opinion, the S7 footage looks far nicer than the S6, particularly as I say, with the contrast ratio and the dynamic range, which has been a consistent theme throughout with all the photos as well. Overall, both cameras are incredibly impressive, but the S7 benefits from brighter, more colourful and more detailed images, particularly in low light. But I think one more thing to mention is that as well as the S7 being able to record 4K without a time limit, you also have the option, of course, to add a micro SD card which you can save photos and videos to, giving you a lot more storage space. Something to bear in mind if you do take a lot of videos or photos in the RAW format, of which both the S6 and S7 can capture. So for the expandable storage alone, the S7 is at an advantage over the S6. If you don't quite agree with what I've said about some of the images I've shown you in this video, I'd be keen to hear what you think, so do let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, please do like and subscribe. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you again right here on the Tech Channel.